How many people have seen A Christmas Carol in one version or the other? Because most of us are pretty familiar. I know there's been a Disney version. Vanessa Redgrave, I think, did it. One Vanessa, former Miss Beauty Queen or something. She did one. That's it, Vanessa Williams. Mickey Mouse even has one out. Would you all like to do a showing here one night? Maybe on a Saturday we could do a showing. Who would be interested in that? Sure. A little bit of enthusiasm. Come on. Everybody's awake. I think it'd be fun. Would y'all like to do that? We could do the old classical version, the black and white. We could do Mickey Mouse. We could do Scrooge the musical.
Saturday afternoon for those of us.
Yes, we can do that. We'll do it early in the day.
Good. Do Scrooge then.
All right, we'll look at some different versions and we'll see. We'll try to make a decision. And if you have some ideas, please give them to Deacon Neal. Now, A Christmas Carol is one of those timeless stories. Not only because we hear about Scrooge's past, present, and future, but because generations have told and retold this story in their own way. The original film was in 1938, and it still remains a classic. And there are many adaptations of this story. Now, if you've not seen A Christmas Carol, or if you just want a refresher course, I'm going to give you just a quick synopsis of the key characters in the plot. Crotchety miser of Ebenezer Scrooge hates Christmas and mistreats his long-suffering employee, devoted family man, Bob Cratchit. But a visit from the ghost of his former business partner, Jacob Marley, and 3 Christmas spirits might convince him to change his ways and become more kind-hearted. Christmas past, present, and future. Bob Cratchit has a son, little tiny Tim, who is crippled and tugs at our heartstrings. A Christmas Carol is a story of redemption, a reminder that we can all be redeemed, changed, transformed, even those of us who may be a Scrooge when it comes to Christmas. Do we have any Scrooges in here that are willing to own up and admit it? Maybe, I think we all have a little bit of it, maybe sometime. And just a little trivia thing. When I first watched A Christmas Carol, my mother told me that one of my distant cousins on her side from the Appalachian Mountains was one of the brothers of little tiny Tim. I never met him or anything, but just a little tidbit. I thought it was interesting. Now, Ebenezer Scrooge, he hates Christmas, but he really has no joy at any time of the year. For him, it's all about making money. He is one of those iconic figures who represents stinginess, greed, and generally being in a terrible mood. Do you know anyone that is similar to Scrooge? They shall remain nameless in this sacred space. Or maybe are there times... Or maybe are there times in the year that you find yourself being a little Scrooge-like? While we may want to write off Scrooge as a hopeless man, stingy, greedy, at the end of the story he is redeemed. And if someone like Scrooge can be redeemed, then so can we. Amen. Now, us in the Christian field, or religious field, we love to throw around these words like sanctification, purification, redemption, redeemed. So, redeem means to free from what distresses or harms us, to release from blame or debt, or to be free from the consequences of that which separates us from God, also known as that dirty little word, S-I-N. Charles Dickens begins his story with these ominous words. Marley was dead to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. Now, after establishing that Marley had been dead for some time, Dickens writes that Scrooge never painted out old Marley's name. Marley and Scrooge were partners in their business, and therefore Marley's name stood there years after his death above the warehouse door. Scrooge and Marley. Scrooge seems to cling to the past because perhaps his only friend, Marley, represented the only thing in which Scrooge trusts: hard work, being frugal, unwavering discipline, and action that can be weighed, measured, and counted. Now, because I see this story through the lens of my life, as a pastor, as a grandmother, as a mother, as a lesbian, it makes me wonder that perhaps Marley and Scrooge were partners in business and in life. But in those times, they were unable to be out in public. and they could not share their love for one another. That was just how I saw this story as I was working on this sermon series. Never before had I seen it like that until I started working on this, but I just, perhaps, maybe that he lost his one true love, and it made him very bitter and angry. We all know people that have lost loved ones, and they become bitter and angry and hold on to it. And I always say to people when they lose their partner, when it's an appropriate time and they're open to receive it, I hope, I say, but at least you had someone that you loved with all your heart and soul. And that is enough. Sometimes that has to be enough. But Scrooge was a man who held on to his past. He was bitter and angry, and just nobody liked him. And so he was all alone. You know, during Advent, as we prepare for Christmas, suddenly our whole environment seems to transform before us. As lights and decorations come out, a sort of holiday cheer swirls from one person to another. People just seem to be nicer during the holidays. Anybody experience that? And there's a sense of wonder all around us. We remember the birth of Christ and what his birth brought to our world. The love of God seems so close and real to us, we can sense it wrapping around us like a blanket to shield us from the cold and the world. Now, if you know someone who is like Scrooge, have you ever thought about what and why this person is a Scrooge and is angry and bitter? Maybe they have been beat up by life or suffered a tragic loss or whatever happened to them. And then we say, well, many of us have been hurt and many of us have had some hard knocks in life, but we all managed to rise above it, still become a decent, loving human being. But I believe in my heart of hearts that maybe some people just can't do that for whatever reason. Maybe they just don't have the inner strength. Maybe they don't have a strong relationship with God or belief in a God that loves them. So what if this season, as we find our own Scrooges, or perhaps a Scrooge within us, what if we were willing to reach out to that person and ask him or her, what troubles you during this Christmas? Why does it bring up such sad feelings for you? Perhaps doing an act of kindness to someone who is homebound or alone and isolated. We can reach out to someone who is our Scrooge in our life. There is much that we can do individually to make a difference in someone's life. Yesterday, a group of our people, led by our deacons, packed lunches for those who live in our streets and fed them a meal, and you'll be hearing more about that during our offering, and gave them a gift of love, of God's love, sharing with them, I believe, God's love. Anytime we do an act of kindness, I believe we show and share God's love for others. Amen. Scrooge, a man who had much wealth and was comfortable, he wanted more and more and more, and he had no desire to help anyone other than himself. Today we live in a society in which the accumulation of material goods is a sign of success. There's an atmosphere, just recently I think, of those who are entitled with rights, privileges, and wealth compared to those who are unwelcome, less than, and don't deserve any better. We are sharply divided as a nation. We see suffering, and sometimes we can say how sorry we are, yet many of us just turn our heads, close our eyes, and go on with our lives. Throughout this Advent, though, we're going to be reminded that all people are worthy, and that in God's economy, all people are equal. There needs to be no division between the very wealthy and the least of these. Amen. Perhaps you are someone who needs redemption this Christmas. Perhaps you need to be set free from that which distresses you, from that which locks you into your past and blocks you from moving forward. And I think Christmas time is always kind of emotional anyway, especially if we've lost loved ones, because we think of Christmas past and people that we loved and shared it with, and now they're gone. And yet we try to hold on to the fact that they're still with us in spirit. Their gift of love is still with us. Hopefully this series will offer each of you an invitation to change something in your life. Our theme throughout this year is God Bless Everyone, the Redemption of Scrooge. And bells are going to be one of those visible signs. And does anybody have any bells at home? Like a big bell that gongs, like out in your yard? Or if you could bring it in, if you wouldn't mind us borrowing it, that would be awesome. Wind bells, we really need like a big gonging bell would be great. If you have one, Rachel, that would be great. I've got one packed up still, but I'm going to look for it. I have a gift for each of you, and what I want to do is give each of you a bell. When I brought these in, my cats just went ballistic. Yeah, I must confess, I brought the ribbon because I was going to put a ribbon around each one, and the ribbon was too wide. I tried cutting the ribbon and that was a disaster. So if you just take it, don't lose it. We have more if you do, but here's a bell for each one of you to remind you of this special time of the year. Perhaps a day that you're feeling discouraged, may you ring that bell and be reminded that God is calling you to a new life. Just as God's present was born anew into this world, we too can be born anew, woken up, and redeemed into new life, into joy, passion, generosity, humility, and love. If you like, Scott, could you play the little video again real quick and have it zoomed up or
I can get it.
queued up, hurried up, whatever it is. There's a little Scrooge in each of us, yearning to thaw, yearning to love again. This week, may you be visited by a surprising peace that may surpass your understanding. And when you feel it, even if for just a fleeting moment, know the miracle has just begun in you for the sake of the whole world. May you be blessed by our God who loves you deeply, by Jesus, the true gift of God to each of us, this season and in all our days, and the Spirit who shows up just in time. Amen.
Amen.